But moving ahead to the SEC game, the big one in Atlanta. We saw this open at what, 3 circa a few weeks back. It's been bet up. There's a 6.5 right now. I'm seeing a bookmaker. There's a 6 at Bet Online, and there's pretty much 5.5 everywhere else. So, but we'll see if the 6.5s are gonna come back down, or if the 5.5s are on their way up. I haven't really been charting this. This feels like one of those games, at least in me, looking at both teams and knowing the history of this rivalry, where either Georgia wins by double digits or Alabama pulls the outright upset. I know Bowers still isn't fully healthy after the ankle surgery. I think he's still feeling some pain, but Mims is back on the offensive line. I know everybody's talking about how Alabama's been great since the South Florida game and winning all these games, and Milroe has been awesome, but they've had a couple of games against inferior teams, the Arkansas game and then last week against Auburn where they miraculously won. I wonder if that puts them in a better position to pull an upset this week after getting a bad game against your rival out of the way. Now you're in Atlanta with, who knows, maybe a spot in the playoff at stake here if you do win, depending on what happens in the other games. I guess if you forced me to make a bet on this game, I would play Georgia minus the points. I don't love it because I do think there are no real result here would surprise me, because I do think Alabama is capable of winning the game. Will, I know you and I both got a really good number on Georgia. I think 110 to win the SEC it was back before the year. So maybe I'll take some Alabama plus the whatever it is on the money line now. I would see what the heck it is. Plus 180 on the money line. Maybe I'll take some Bama money line up against that. Are you going to do anything with that SEC title bet from the beginning of the year here?
You're welcome, by the way. You're lying on the beach, relaxing. I'm grinding, looking for numbers in the summer. I mean, one of us has got to work around here. I might take the 6.5, try to middle it. We were texting about this number, like, you think we'll get a 7? And we both agreed 6.5 was probably the tip of the market. So maybe you can get a cheap 7 minus 120. I think it's like a 28-24 game, which does go against what you say, where, I could see a scenario where Georgia wins but don't cover. Is it sort of eerily similar to 2 years ago where Bryce Young on the final drive pulls the game out of the fire? Bigsby doesn't go, or he does go out of bounds. He doesn't go down. And then all of a sudden, Bama's a 6-point dog and they have no shot. And they actually steamrolled Georgia in that game. I think 141-24. So I like the under here. I just think both teams, their path for success is running the ball. Georgia is good on defense. They're not great. You can run it a little bit on them. We've seen that. Even Bama, I think Auburn had some success running it last week against Bama. So if both teams' approach is to run the ball, that's going to move the clock a little bit. Both these coaches, I think, are a little bit conservative by nature, both defensive coaches. So if it's like 4th and 2 at midfield, I don't know how aggressive these teams are going to be, especially early. So I think with these big games, there's usually a feeling out process. So 54.5, 55, it's around there. I would play the under. These games on these fast tracks have trended over, but it's not the same Bama team in terms of the skill and explosiveness that we've seen in the past, half a decade or so. So to me, Georgia wins a close game. It stays under.
I agree with that too. I was talking to guys at the Superbook, and they said some of their sharpest accounts hit under when it was 55. We're seeing some shops as low as 53.5. A lot of 54.5. Obviously, get the best number per usual. You always want to have the right number. Go under the high numbers and over the low numbers. I've got a couple stats for you. Peter Burns tweeted this out. Nick Saban is 10-1 in SEC championship games. Saban's also won 16 straight games in the city of Atlanta. Now, trends don't pay the rent, but those two certainly help, right? And if I had a Georgia future like you guys did, I would take the 6. Because then you can middle that, right? You got Georgia to win. You got Bama plus 6. These quarterbacks are a lot different than they were last year when you had Stetson Bennett, the vet, who got, picked up by an NFL team. Then you had Bryce Young. These quarterbacks are just not that same caliber. Milroe throws a pretty decent deep ball, but he's pretty average in the mid-range game. And I still don't know, guys, if we know what Carson Beck is. He could have a great future in college football, could be an NFL quarterback for all I know. But how many really good defenses has Georgia faced this year? I mean, Georgia got Tennessee, Georgia got Ole Miss. Pretty sure Georgia played Missouri. The Alabama defense over a course of a season generally gets better, and that Bama defense is a lot better in December than it was in September.
To me, this game comes down to Carson Beck. If Carson Beck is good, Georgia wins this by a lot. If he's better than Milroe, and look, Milroe offensively can hit the deep pass with the best of them. But as Sammy mentioned, it's an intermediate game, right? If Georgia says, look, man, we're just not going to let you throw the ball deep. We're going to play safeties deep. It's not going to happen. We're going to press. We're going to try to pressure you and force you to throw underneath. Not what he does well. If Carson Beck is on, if he's on, and everything you guys have said is absolutely true about the defenses they face, but if he is on, guys, I think Georgia can score a ton of points in this game, and this game will be a blowout. And I don't know how you play that live because you won't get a great number if Georgia's up big at some point. But I think if the quarterbacks, if Beck elevates himself and Milroe just is who he is, I think Georgia wins this game pretty handily. But I don't know if there's a wager to make on that before the game. I mean, maybe a Beck over for passing, which again, but if he's not on, then this could be a close game, and Alabama will cover the 6.5.
Yeah, I think both Will and Sammy have talked me into taking a little Bama plus the best number that I can find.
These teams are both built to play each other.
Yes. Oh,
like Georgia's built to play Alabama. Bama's built to play Georgia. So on paper, I mean, the 6.5 is a good number if you have two teams that are equally similar. Again, what sets these teams apart, I think that Georgia is slightly better on the roster, and their quarterback, if he is on, is better than Milroe. But look, the X factor, I know I'm talking in circles sometimes here, is if Milroe can run the football, I mean, that's a huge X factor, right? Like if he's able to break the pocket and make plays, Alabama can move the football down the field in ways that Georgia can't do, right? Because Beck's not going to be that player. So, I mean, I think I would lean the points if you're asking me to take a wager on this game. But I do think, again, if Beck is on, it might be a long day for Alabama.
That's why I really no scenario here, no result would surprise me. Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.